Okay, so we're going to model this emergency room drug called deferoxamine today. It's been a very long time since my last modeling video. Um, but I'm kind of in the mood to do another one today, so let's see how this goes. What I usually do is make a copy of an existing model. So let's try using Oxervate. Okay, this should work. So just paste it over here, take out any notes. If you don't have an existing model, I mean, all of the row categories are here for you. You have events, notes, clinical trial, competition. You know the generic name. Here is the peroxime mesylate. And then, oh, okay. So this one doesn't have an actual, what is this? Okay, this one doesn't have an actual cash flow model. Um, hmm. Maybe I can use Lanafarnibs. Okay, there we go. This one, yeah. Okay. All right. And this is just a very simple template if you want to make a discounted cash flow model. There you go. Format, right. So emergency room drugs are very interesting to me. I have some ideas where we could potentially develop for FDA approval emergency room drugs. Um, the kind of ranking for drugs that are the easiest to get approved for goes medical countermeasure drugs. So stuff for like the US Army to carry, if you're exposed to nerve agents or some sort of like foreign chemical, you would take what's called a medical countermeasure drug. And so FDA approvals for those require the least amount of evidence. I would say emergency room drugs are probably the fall second on that list. So you don't need a lot of evidence for ER drug approvals typically. It's just really hard to run a trial where you give patients something that would put them into the emergency room versus placebo, right? So a lot of times what they require is one phase one healthy volunteer trial and then observation of this drug being used off label somewhere in the country during emergency scenarios, which makes it honestly a pretty easy to develop drug. And then third category is ultra rare disease drugs where patient populations are really small, and it's just hard to run a robust clinical trial to generate efficacy. So yeah, those are the three easiest to develop drugs. But just because you get FDA approval doesn't necessarily mean you'll see revenue or return, right? You have to figure out do people will people what will people pay for my drug and how many people are going to actually need this, buy this, and how long can I be selling my drug exclusively. So all of these, you know, there's a lot of sort of parts that matter here. And then the big overarching question is really why has no one else done this before? Or why has no one else developed this drug if it's so easy and you can make money? And that's where I think modeling really helps because if you can model out all the other emergency room drugs, it helps you create a better mental model of which sort of drugs might have fallen through the cracks, what the development process is going to look like, and what could I actually develop or see that no one else has seen yet? What insights do I have? And like so much of that comes from just modeling existing drugs. So that's what we're going to do today. And we'll start with deferoxamine mesylate. So I don't know the ER drug space very well, and I've modeled some snake antivenom drugs, but this is the first. Um, I think this is for, what is this for? Um, okay, acute iron intoxication. So iron poisoning. This is the first really poisoning drug I've modeled. So let's get started. A brand name. What's the brand name? These ER drugs are also weird because you don't really see a lot of generics come out for them, even when the patent has expired. Um, Whether that's the commercialization for these is a little different than um more common drugs, right? Because here you're selling to hospitals and ER rooms, ambulances, medical networks, rather than um, pharmacies themselves and wholesale suppliers. So I don't know if the commercialization channel is like really deters companies from making generics, or if it's just it's not that profitable to make certain ER drugs, and so generics don't come anyways. But it'll be interesting to find that out. Okay, so Desferal. You can find the indication here, drugs at FDA database of all the approved small molecule drugs, and on their FDA label will tell you a lot of what you need for your model. So, okay, this is the first indication. Or you know what? The way I want to do this is I'm going to go to a different website. Sometimes this gives me the day of approval, which is really what I'm looking for. But maybe it doesn't have it for one of these more niche drugs. Okay. And if you're really desperate, you can use Wikipedia too. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Hmm. Okay, so I don't know if any more recent approvals added in indications, but in general, I think this is for iron overload. So I would, just for the sake of the model, say it was approved 1968 for treatment of acute iron intoxication and chronic iron overload due to um transfusion dependent anemias. Okay. Okay, this is all injectable, so it doesn't come as any oral. Economics. I think it's Novartis drug. Interesting. I'm not sure if it's still a Novartis drug, but let's see. So, and because we're modeling the branded drug rather than the generic, I would just use the brand name here. Desferal. Okay, it's Novartis. Sometimes the rights for drugs like these get passed around, licensed, right? Okay, so look at that. It was acquired by Mighty Pharma in 2024. Wow, would you look at that? Huh. And I like these acquisitions because if there's actually a price on the acquisition, that helps me understand what the drug is worth. Okay. All right, mechanism of action. This is kind of the fun part to learn the mechanism. Oh, I just control F mechanism. There you go. And another fun thing you could do is just, there you go. Um, you can insert an image of the molecule that you're trying to model here because once you've modeled a bunch of drugs, you can kind of there's a lot of takeaways that you can get from just looking at the chemical structures here. And PKPG, you can also get from the FDA label. So that's for the PK. Usually PKPD is more extensive on drug labels. But this might be because they didn't have to run extensive trials for deferoxamine, so they don't have any extensive data generated. Okay, no PD. Um, oh, interesting. Seems like it has some off-label use in aluminum toxicity, so we should check it out here. Okay, I think they just don't really have a lot of PD data generated, and the mechanism of action ties into the PD, but I wanted to see um how long does it take to chelate and um how much is required. Uh, but if it's not there, it's not there. So for IP, you can go to Orange Book and not Orange Book like Soul Cycle, like the workout website, Orange Book, like FDA Orange Book. So obviously the IP is expired since there's generics out. Um, but it's still just good to know. So here ASP is average sales price and WAC is wholesale acquisition cost. Actually, wait, if there's a 2024 report, let's use that, right? Sorry, the screen sharing's paused because I'm using a different tab. I'll just tell you guys what I see. Hmm. Okay. So for the WAC, I'm seeing $139. I just want to double check this. But I want to see if this is per injection or per 4 injections. Hmm. I think this is per 4 powder for injection. Okay. 44 for a supply of one. It's around 160, 170. Okay. Okay, yeah, let's go with that. We can always change it later, but I think this is 140 for 4. You know what? Let's use this. Let's use 4 here. Here. We'll use the CMS average sales price, drug pricing files. We'll just use the most recent date. Usually ASP can be a little bit lower than WAC because it takes into account rebates. But because the price here is so low, I don't think it'll be material. Okay, so ASP is very low. What? For 30. So WAC is around $30 per vial. This ASP is around $8 or $9 per value. Okay, which is so ASP is really what Medicare pays, and in general, Medicare pays less than private insurance. So my guess is private insurance pays you somewhere between $10 and $20 per vial. So 8.9. 8.9 we would round up to we'll just round up to 9. Okay. So since ASP is per vial, let's just calculate 139 divided by 4, $35. Okay, done with that. So because generics have actually entered for this drug, the price is quite, I mean, this is very low price. This is generics price, even if it's a brand name drug here. But you know what? It's a good thing for society because drug has been approved since 1968. You wouldn't want it to be some wildly high, unaffordable price. They've already enjoyed probably 14 years of being priced really high, and now that the patent's expired, this innovation should really belong to society, and the way that it's going to both like translate to like forever benefit to society is for the actual price of the drug to go down and for generics to come in as it should be. The real problem is that actually when the patents expire and through, some shady tricks or some sort of patent thicket, the the price doesn't go down. That's when you should be worried, right? Because a company has really gotten some unfair gains for the amount of innovation that they've contributed. So that's where you really need regulation people to step in. But obviously that's not the case for this drug. Okay, so regimen. I'm gonna guess they will need a lot of bottles for acute poisoning. Um, let's see. So sometimes even if the price is cheap, you end up needing so many bottles that you're still spending significant amount of money on these drugs. Let's see though. Okay, so 2 indications. The first one is acute iron intoxication. Oh my God, I can't type today. Intoxication. Second one is chronic iron overload. Okay, so 2 ways to administer this. I intramuscularly or intravenously and intravenously gets um uh systemic exposure faster than intramuscular, which is probably why they ask you to administer intravenous for patients who are in a more critical state. Um, okay, so we should take that down as a no. Okay. Same dosing regimen for patients with cardiovascular collapse. Okay, so based on ASP price, if you take 6,000 milligrams in 24 hours, that's 5 times 2 times 6, which is 18 times 6. 60, 100. Okay, well, $108. So it's pretty cheap, honestly. So here I'm just going to say average daily, average 20 to 60 mg per kg. Or you know what, let's use milligrams per kilograms. Um daily. Okay. 1,000 milligrams. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so no matter, I guess it depends on how long you're going to take it each day. Hmm. There's a big difference between the intramuscular dose and the subcutaneous one. Hmm, interesting. All right, let's look at the manufacturing. This should be very simple, small molecule. Okay, some of this is might not be public information, but it usually manufacturing for this stuff is very generic. I would just put this process here for now. And if we find any information later, we'll fill it in. So competition, uh, generics. Um, yeah, we can list out the specific generics too. So, Here, so this is all the competition. Clinical trial is always fun. So yeah, it's very uncommon for a drug label to not contain the description trial conducted, but this one, it doesn't have it. Usually it'd be section 14, but there is no section 14 here. See, it goes straight from 13, skips 14 and 15. Which just tells me this trial was definitely like bare bones, maybe just a healthy volunteer trial. Hmm, okay. Hmm, Oh, would you look at that? The agency granted accelerated approval based on retrospective analysis of data from a subset of subjects previously enrolled. That's crazy. Amazing. Okay. Oh, but you know what? I was so caught up in this trial. This is actually another competitor. So Faraprox might be a competitor that we should look at. And then this drug, Deferrus. Deferrus. Hmm. So I think it's because it was approved so long ago, it's going to be difficult to find the actual clinical trial data. So we'll look for it. If there's something that comes up later, we'll fill it in. Events. So I like to put significant events here. One significant event would be, when did the first generic arrive on market? Hmm. Okay, so this one actually, this first generic was approved third quarter of 2017. I'm gonna move the event over here. Okay, this one was approved in 2009. 2007. 2006. Okay, and 2004. Considering this drug was actually approved in 1968, I'm a little surprised generics didn't come out until '04. But some of it might have been due to like generic equivalents and testing laws that didn't come out until like the late '90s, I want to say. Where before those laws, it was much harder to develop a generic. So it's great. So you want generic laws. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to for manufacturers to be incentivized also to develop a generic drug once the patent expires, because um that's really like that's what enables the whole sort of pharmaceutical system to run and benefit society. Otherwise, you don't want a drug to charge high prices for a very long time. Okay, so these are all the events. Hmm. Okay, what I want to look into is also the competition. So look at this for all competition, see what comes up. Because obviously people think there's some sort of opportunity to develop these ER drugs, even though Desferal's patent has expired and generics come in, people are trying to develop all these slightly better, slightly newer competitors. And if you understand the rationale behind why they're making drugs like Theraprox and Xshade, you can apply that to your own drug development ideas, right? So it's really beneficial to understand, like, obviously someone's putting in the money to make better or competitive drugs, and you want to know why. So let's look at Fairprox. Let's look at XJade. Oops. Oh, there you go. Okay. See, so these are much newer drugs with patent life. So first approval was in fourth quarter of 2011. Okay, interesting. So in the second quarter of 2021, actually, I wonder if I could go to drugs.com. It might lay this out a little bit easier for me to understand. Yeah, so this is much easier. Okay. Okay, guys, so it's getting late. I've had a Celsius and some coffee, but I just feel like I need to go to sleep for my own health and to function tomorrow. So this is the end of part 1 of modeling emergency drugs like Desferal, and I'll follow up with the part 2 very soon. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.